Let's talk about how to approach the very large data set associated with your team survey. First thing you'll want to do is go back to Module 8 and click on the Team Project Survey link, and then open that in a new window. And have this handy because it will help you understand how the data was collected. Once you've downloaded the data, you'll see over here in the columns menu that there are 83 variables. Your team will not need all 83. If you need to move the columns menu over, you certainly can. That helps you see the questions. It should come in pretty narrow, and if you extend it out, that will be very helpful. You've already been asked to summarize the sample for your research data brief. Those are the first set of variables that go up through what year are you. So these variables are the demographic variables. You may not need all of them. Remember, some of them are well described and you may not need to use the other options. We'll look at that in one moment. What you really need to do is create a subset. So your team needs to sit down and determine which variables you will need to use for analysis. I'm going to go ahead and select the variables that are associated to flu shot. So I've got the first set of variables selected already, and I'm going to hold the Command key or else the Control key on a Windows, and I'm going to select these two flu shot variables. So you can see here that I have 29 variables selected. So I'm going to go to Tables, and I'm going to go to Subset, and I'm going to click Selected Columns, and then I want to output the table name Team Data Final. Press OK. And now you can see that I have a much more manageable data set. So I don't have the 83 columns. I only have the 29 that I may need to use. And now it comes to time where you can then use the survey to help you. So the very first variable is age. And the problem is that age is coming in as character. And what you can see here, and if you go back to the larger data set, as all the variables are coming in as character over here on the left side, you can see they all have red histograms. That's a function of how the data is captured when you use Qualtrics. And in fact, most data capture systems will capture everything as a character. It is your job to understand how the data was collected and how you want to use it. Age is fairly straightforward. If I go to Analyze Distribution and do a distribution on age as it is now, you can see that I get the proportions output. So it's telling me that my mode is 20, that there are 46 20-year-olds out of the 136 that responded. But that's not really useful information for us in terms of what we need to treat age as. We need age to be continuous. So go to Columns, go to Column Information, and then I'm going to make this numeric, and I'm going to make it continuous, and I'm actually simply going to change the variable name to age. So there we go. So this is okay. Remember, I haven't overwritten the original data. So I want to take a look at the distribution of gender. And gender looks okay, so the only thing I'm going to do here is change the column name to gender so that it's a little bit shorter. Then my next two variables are both race related. So analyze distribution and look at race. And we can see what is your race ethnicity. And we have lots of different options here. And it was check all that apply. And then we have some other options, but only 2 people answered other. So we may not need to really spend a lot of time working on incorporating that level of specificity. In fact, if you are going to use race, you're going to want to recode this. So let's go ahead and do, I'm going to call this race original. Race ethnicity original. Press OK, and now I'm going to go to Columns menu and I'm going to recode. And looking at the options I have here, I'm going to create a formula. And so Asian, there are 24. Black or African American, there are 31. And then there's a number of Black or African American plus. So you need to make a decision. Will those go into multi-race, or will you use a tiered system in that we're looking at white only, any Black, African American, Asian, any Hispanic and other, or are we going to do white, black, Asian, other? So think about how you want to use race. So I have white, that can stay white. I have Asian, those can stay Asian. I have black or African American, and I'm going to go ahead and make everything else multi-race or other. And you'll see here that I can then copy and paste into, and that takes care of the two others, into everything else. Now you could also use Hispanic as a category. It just really comes down to how you want to use the data. And of course, we have a sample size issue. Our multi-race other is still going to have a small number of variables. I've got a formula column. I'm going to go race, ethnicity, recode. Just be clear about how you classified race and what decisions you made. And then I can do a distribution and look at my new race variable. And so this would be more appropriate to utilize for analysis rather than having a number of columns with a single option. So if I go and look at another example is, let's take a look at the flu shot. So let's go down here over in our survey and look for the flu shot variable. So you can keep scrolling, or we can find in this page, and I want to find flu, and it takes me right there. So here's a little bit of an issue with the flu shot variable. This question right here, this second question, have you gotten the flu shot in past years, should have been only select one. And it turns out it came in as select all that apply. And that's where we get a little bit of weird information. So have you gotten the flu shot in the past years? Analyze distribution. And you can see here that we have some weird responses. We have people who said prefer not to answer and don't know, and people who answered yes and no. So analytically speaking, we can't really use the yes and no together. Is it yes or is it no? So you can set those as missing. So conflicting answers, prefer not to answer, don't know, yes, no, you can set it as missing. Or you can lump them all together, yes, no, other. But you don't really want to analyze the others. We really just want to stick to yeses and nos here. So again, this is going to be a situation where we to recode. And I'm going to go to past shot recode and a formula column. And I'm going to make the don't knows and the prefer not to answers and this weird yes, comma, no all missing. And you see we're not losing a lot of data here. It's only 3, 4, 5, 6 responses that don't make sense. So you could report that there were 6 answers out of 136 that were non-specific, and we're going to move ahead with yes and no and press recode. So now I could move on and do an analysis of fit y by x of the new flu shot recode as my x, and that seems strange because it's my outcome, but really my question here is I want to know if there's a difference in ages between the yes and no past flu shot. So in this case, I'm going to put my age as my response so I can do a group means and press OK. And then I'm going to ask for my means ANOVA pooled and my standard deviations and my quantiles. Our null hypothesis here would be that there's no difference in the mean age by people who've gotten the flu shot in the past. And my alternative is that there is a difference in age, and then you can do the results from here. Another analysis that you might want to look at would be, have people who've gotten the flu shot in the past, are they likely to get the flu shot this year? And press OK. And oh no, this contingency table is huge. This is because I didn't take a look at this variable first. So again, analyze distribution, go back and look at did you or do you get the flu shot this year? And you can see that we have 4 different answers. And these aren't really useful for analysis. The prefer not to answer, there's only 5 of them. So this needs to be recoded as well. And it's likely the best thing to do here is to recode the no's as no, and the yes, the two yeses is a single yes. I'll leave that up to the team. But you need to make sure to look at your variables. Look at your variables. There are variables like the children variable. Do you have any children that live with you? We've got yes, at least one child, prefer not to answer, and no, 0 children. So again, the prefer not to answers would need to be recoded as missing. There are other continuous variables that came in. On average, how many hours of sleep do you get per night? This will come in as character. It needs to be changed to numeric. So you may have some recoding to do on your variables. That's why it's incredibly important for you to look at them and make them fit your question that you are addressing. If you or your team have any specific variable issues, please let me know.